we get the news that Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark talked to George Kliavkoff, right? I thought that was amazing yesterday, but then confirms that the Big 12 was talking to Gonzaga, which is in itself remarkable because now Gonzaga is not going to the Big 12 and UConn is not going to the Big 12. And you have to ask yourself, well, where do they go now? But remember all the people who said, oh, you guys, again, just because I keep receipts, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're the only one saying that Gonzaga in the Big 12. Well, apparently we do have some idea of what we're talking about with Gonzaga in the Big 12.
Right now, I did have conversations with UConn and Gonzaga, and unfortunately, things didn't work out only because, the dream scenario unfolded for us. So those conversations, are no longer. I'm a big admirer of both those programs. They're fantastic for all the right reasons. But right now, I'm focused on the transition of those four in right now. And also how do I leverage the fact that, I'm now a 16-team league in 10 states with 90 million people in 4 different time zones. So that's my focus right now.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Dude.
Nailed it. And again, I think that they wanted 16. They were never stopping at 14. If they didn't get the four-corner school, Gonzaga would be in the Big 12 today.
Gonzaga.
If the Pac-12 had stayed together and it was just Arizona, I think they'd have added Gonzaga and UConn based on what he says there.
Yeah, he characterizes it as a backup plan and basically as, hey, if the four-corner schools don't work out, we're gonna go this way. And that makes sense. Again, I've always said that Gonzaga is a cherry on top option, or, potentially it could be somewhat of a backup plan. I never considered it a true full backup plan because Gonzaga doesn't play football and they're, basketball only plus all the other sports that they have. But certainly they would be a valuable add as we've discussed at length. So I just think that again, the contrast, the reason we wanted to play all this for you today is because the contrast, in my opinion, is really shocking. I mean, you have a guy in Brett Yormark who is just so silky smooth, just savvy, gets it, just totally understands it. And then you've got another guy in I guess multiple guys, because typically I'd go right to George Kliavkoff here since we're talking about a commissioner in Brett Yormark. But you got another guy, Michael Crow here, and by extension Ray Anderson, who just seem lost, just seem like they think that they are better than you. They think that, hey, we're, Apple's going to pay us $500 million for some package around TV and streaming and all that. And it's just, it just is a tired take. I respect people who are arrogant when they win and they're just outperforming you and they're doing all the stuff they need to be doing. But if you can't even do what you need to be doing, then you really shouldn't be asking folks like ESPN for $50 a year. You just should.
Yes, I agree. All right, let's get your thoughts in here after we tell you that Bucked Up is the official energy provider of the Monty Show. Every day on this show, I tell you that I am dying from this post-nasal drip. I have this little cough that just shows up, and you're in the middle of a sentence, you're like, it's the worst thing in the world when you talk for a living. But I'll tell you, one thing really helps you feel better, gives you more energy. It's Bucked Up Energy, man. And they're buckshot. You see us drink them every day on the show. You guys should get them online at buckedup.com. Use the promo code Monty20 to get 20% off your purchase at buckedup.com. Cheers to you, friends. So good. Keep them in your fridge. They're so amazingly good when they are chilled. Gives you a mental lift, 200 milligrams of caffeine. It's everything you need for that post-lunch carb crash. When you're sitting there writing a budget or putting together an Excel spreadsheet and you've got 37 pivot tables and you need that sharpness in your brain, right? You're driving a garbage truck or you're digging a ditch. You need that sharpness in your brain so you can work at your best. That's what Bucked Up's all about. Long-lasting, clean energy. You can count on the ingredients because Bucked Up's on the label. Buckedup.com, the official energy provider of the Monty Show. Your turn to comment on what are some amazing comments. MJ Bissett says, go Mean Green. Watching that clip that has a job should feel underpaid. Guys, let me explain the interweb broadcasting breakthrough to you. And that's truly what it is. When you hear the president in Arizona State, just listen to the first 30 seconds of this.
So basically what the Apple deal was is Apple would spend $500 million in the first year to take all the football games, all the men's basketball games, and all the women's basketball games in the Pac-12, digitally capture them and make them available to everyone. And you could play the games whenever you wanted to play them.
Wow. Oh. We know. Guy, I have YouTube TV. That's exact. You're describing YouTube TV, doorknob. Like
I'm unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, this is not rocket science.
I'm not too familiar with that.
Guys. And he's talking with his hands up, right?
Guys.
So basically what the Apple deal was is
look at him with his
Apple would
hands up.
spend $500 million in the first year to take all the football games, all the men's basketball games, and all the women's basketball games in the Pac-12, digitally capture them and make them available.
And what the hell does digitally capture them mean?
You mean you're going to record them just like any other person or entity would, and then you're going to archive them just like everyone's already been doing, bro. Like,
it's wild.
Did it. You have no idea what in the hell you're talking about.
Wandering around in the woods,
and
dude.
Listen. This is extreme. I admit it. It almost seems like Apple did a once-over on Michael Crow with this deal. They were like, hey, man, we've got innovative technology. And they're only doing this because he knows he doesn't know better. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it almost seems like that because you're sitting here in an interview post the destruction of the Pac-12 trying to justify why you died on the Hill on some Friday meeting that Oregon and Washington were never going to. And then you were surprised 2 hours later you were in the Big 12.
And this guy runs Arizona State and is arguably the second most powerful person in the state of Arizona athletic
stupid
chain of command.
Come on, dude.
What are you doing?
Be better.
Amazing. Stephen Smith gives us $10. Thank you, Stephen. Do you guys think Iowa and Iowa State will do after all the players are found out in the gambling scandal to prevent another one from happening? Tell them not to gamble and hope that they listen.
Prove a point with the discipline.
If you guys missed the story yesterday, 8 more Iowa and Iowa State athletes were essentially kicked out of school because they were found to have either gambled and not been truthful in some cases, or gambled and tried to destroy records of their gambling. And that's a felony. That's called fraud and lying to investigators. At some point, we can't anymore just write this off to, hey, they're innocent kids, they didn't know. Well, that's some bullshit because they did know.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't know and they didn't know they were in trouble, why are they trying to allegedly destroy evidence? Well, they knew they had done wrong. So I feel like this is not new. This is just the new reality.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
This is our reality. We all know, from Phil Mickelson to the Detroit Lions, NFL players like Pete Rose, this is not new in sports. Guys that play sports are going to gamble on sports. They're competitive mofos, man. And if you don't have a plan in place for this, you're foolish. And I'm telling you now, it's no different than Pete Rose. This is the one rule you cannot break.
Agreed.
Because you look at this movement with ESPN and ESPN Bet with Penn Entertainment. This is again the new normal. ESPN, the leading voice of sports in this country, now has put their name on a large number of sports books and they're going to have significant influence, I would guess, over the narratives and over the lines, and the words that their analysts use will carry significant weight. And we already saw this happen with the NBA draft last year, I think it was.
I believe it was, yeah.
This past NBA draft, rather, where a pick was changed. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
So, if you're a guy that likes to wager, you got to be careful with where you're getting your information from. If you're an athlete and you like to wager, stop being an athlete because you can't do both. That's as simple as I can put it. If you want to be a professional athlete, which means if you want to play college level ball or higher, you can't gamble.
Yeah.
Period. Just that, or if you want to gamble, your athletic career's over. Those are the A and the B. Take your pick and make a final decision because there's no going back.
Yeah.
Because once you bet on a game, and I don't care if that game is your game, somebody else's game, your sport, a different sport, you're out. That's as simple as it can be.
Yeah.
Because you have to, at some level, when ESPN's name is on sports books, you have to, at some level, protect and ensure the integrity of the outcome of the game.
Yeah, and I think that gambling is something that obviously is pervasive in the culture, man. I mean, it is everywhere, and I still maintain it is who gets caught because everyone's doing it, and I think that everyone at first was all surprised when the amount of athletes got caught that did, and then more have come out,
But is this any different? And here's where really I struggle with this gambling conversation.
Yeah.
It's no different than weed or alcohol or cigarettes, or it is as simple as we can put it. If steroids, if you're a professional athlete and you test positive for steroids, what's going to happen? You're going to get suspended. If you're a professional athlete and you get caught gambling, you're going to get suspended.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. I don't understand why we have to complicate this or look at gambling like it's some big black cloud and, hey, let's go down the alleyway behind the dumpster and we'll place a wager.
Mm-hmm.
Why? You know what you're doing. I don't think this is complicated. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but I have zero sympathy for these kids at Iowa and Iowa State.
Yeah, and I think the only difference between, like, let's say, weed or like substance abuse, let's say, versus gambling is when it's a guy who's on the team gambling. I think then it kind of, solidifies your point. Like, you can't have, a guy on your team gambling on the game that then impacts the line that another company has set on that game. And
but it's the same thing as kicking guys out for smoking weed, which is legal in half the country, right? You know the rules. Like the San Francisco Giants game is on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked at the great KMBR 680, the sports leader in San Francisco, a guy named Melky Cabrera was the left fielder of the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah.
World championship contending San Francisco Giants. He got caught for using performance-enhancing drugs, and all anybody talked about was like, wow, what a mistake, and man, we're all let down, and I can't believe our brother did this to us and abandoned us. And, well, if you bet on gambling, how is it any different than what he just did? It isn't any different. You're letting everybody down because everybody knows the rule. Do you think all these dudes are sitting around some campfire in the middle of the locker room at Iowa State being like, okay, I got a 20 spot on the over? Like, that's not how it works. You know what they're doing? They're hiding. They're using VPNs. They think they can get away with it. But the problem is, unless it's bookie guy, if you go to Vegas as a college athlete and bet, you're going to get turned in by Vegas because it's illegal and they know it's illegal.
Yeah.
If you go to sports books around the country and you're a professional athlete, if you play in the NBA, the NHL, the Major League Baseball, football, whatever, the sports book is going to turn you in.
This is fucking America.
So we've driven people to, hey, my bookie, Jerry's on the phone. Jerry, give me a dime. Like, that's what we've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. When I was in college, there was a bookie on every campus. I got to believe that's still the same thing. Got to believe it.
Yeah, because there's still a need for it, and there's still no, it's not legalized, obviously.
I don't know. I'm probably making too much out of it, but I just feel like this gambling, this stuff with placing bets, we got to get the fuck over it. because we make it out like these guys are criminals. They're not criminals. They're not criminals. We'll let you smoke and drink, but you place a bet, you're a criminal. What are you talking about? Do we have freedoms or not? I just don't care. You're an adult. You want to bet on something? Just understand the ramifications. It's what I always say about swinging a golf club. It's the perfect analogy. Swing the club and deal with the consequences. You want to place a bet? Place your bet and deal with the consequences. And if you're an athlete, you better know that you just gave up your athletic career.
You're so fucked.
It's that simple. Freedom's free, dude. Only it's not. Is what it is. Raider Mark says, didn't an Iowa State athlete's mom place bets for her kid? There are so many wild stories out there that I don't want to detail it. I don't want to detail it because I'll be honest with you. I have read so many things about the Iowa State scandal.
It's not the best situation, and we all know that.
It's wild, the storytelling. And until one of the things I will say about these college kids and gambling, and when kids like this get in trouble, I want to wait for the ultimate outcome. Because if you vilify a kid, whether it's Duke lacrosse back in the day or whatever the scandal is, remember the BYU Duke volleyball racial incident thing? Like, we vilified people for that stuff. Let's just wait and see, because we're changing their lives forever. I don't want to get into his mom did this with his dad that made him possible. Like, I get it. You don't need to pay me a picture. You know what I'm saying? It was probably too much of an extension. Jeff Woodworth, how many Iowa kids had broken fingers last year? Ow, my knee hurts, seriously. Christopher Shannon says, kick him off the team, eliminate NCAA eligibility. You have to.
Yeah.
Your career's over.
Yeah, and look, I think that we can be like, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I mean, it's just like anything else, right? It's choices and consequences. I totally agree with that. At the same time, though, I do think there's a bigger picture conversation around culture on campuses, man. Like, I don't disagree. Gambling, in my opinion, should be available in every state. It's much like anything else, dude. You want to go have a beer or too many beers or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that.
You are an adult.
Just don't drive. Don't
adult.
be an idiot afterwards, right? It's one of those same things, but unfortunately, we have to accept the fact that sometimes people do dumb things, and that's the only way they learn not to do those dumb things. And it just is what it is. That's life.
Exactly. We all want freedom. We don't want consequences.
Well, and I feel like what we want for these kids is like some sort of like kind of grace period. And I don't think that exists, and it probably shouldn't exist, man. Because now it's like, oh well, if there's a grace period for this, what's next? And we don't need to be nice constantly. That's the biggest problem.
But we only do this shit in college. Excuse my French. We only do this stuff in college. Wasn't it Michigan State today who came out and said they're going to sell beer at like 3 games? Well, because we can't have beer.
Never mind what's going on in the parking lot, right?
We can't have Jake. We can't have beer around these young, impressionable, athletes that we're trying to oppress their income and reach into their NIL money. We can't be giving them beer. And did you think there's not kegs back in their dorms? Do you think they're off-campus apartments where you can't go, or they're just? Do you think they spread holy water all over the apartment floor?
Yes. Nothing goes on off campus.
Are you kidding me right now? Come on. Capazzo, what's up in the Jeezy? Capazzo, good to see you. Monty, weed is illegal throughout the nation. State laws can't trump federal law. I've heard this 1,000 times. Everybody always makes this. This is a different show, by the way. But all I will say is everybody says state law can't trump federal law. The only problem with that is state law often trumps federal law. Go anywhere in this country where weed is legal. Any state that's got legal marijuana. Go look at it. Go check it out, dude. Where's the FBI raiding all of the weed houses?
Where was the FBI in Colorado?
Where's the FBI in Arizona where the dispensary business is booming? Where now sports betting is booming. Oh, that's right. It's legal in that state. My bad. My bad. It's a federal law. It's different show. But I understand what you're saying. Rick Forrester, my priest made a bet with your priest did not, sir. My priest made a bet with his bookie,
image, and likeness.
for me when I was underage. I don't believe you.
Yeah, was his bookie's name Moses?
And he bet on Notre Dame, right?
I think I've hit it every time.
I think you have. Conference Commissioner Gumby says, good thing Olive Garden breadsticks aren't illegal. Amen to that. If they were, I'd be a lot thinner. I can tell you that. Crab for $10. Do you think Oresco is worried that if the Pac-12 and Mountain West merge and the college football playoff goes to 5 auto bids, that the AAC would be screwed as the Pac-Mountain West merger conference dominates the 5th auto bid in the college football playoff? I don't think that's the case. I could be wrong. Note that none of the bids in the expanded college football playoff are set.
Yeah.
Everybody tends to forget that I think it's 2025 and beyond. The auto bids are not set.
Yeah.
So we have a long way to go there.
TBD.
Yeah, and I think, excuse me, that's also why, my cough, that's also why I think realignment's not done.
Yeah.
I think we are far from done in realignment. And listen, I think Mike Oresco is a phenomenal commissioner of the AAC.
Mm-hmm.
He's a phenomenal administrator, really good human being, great at his job. He's a victim of circumstance, as is Gloria Navarez. She is waiting on Oregon State and Washington State, who our sources have told us the Mountain West has an open standing invite to. And I think she would love to add Cal and Stanford as well. But Stanford's not going to the Mountain West.
Right.
They're not. So I think you now are reliant on some really difficult decision-making to be made. And there's all kinds of wild rumors out there about, Oliver Luck, and he works for the Pac-12. Well, it turns out he doesn't work for the Pac-12. Turns out he was hired by Oregon State originally, and Washington State wanted his services as well. They became a package deal. Oh. Like, there's all of these wild rumors floating around that the AAC is voting to dissolve. They're not voting to dissolve.
Right.
They're not. So, I don't know. I don't have a firm grip, and I think we're very good about telling you what we know and we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't pretend to know what's going to happen with these 4 remaining teams. People that I talk to at the Mountain West, at around the Pac-12, everybody is firmly in the position of, why are we going to travel to Texas and New Orleans when we don't have to spend that money?
And I just think that there's no good reason to do it until you find a Power 5 home. I don't know why. And again, I know there's a conversation around, hey, would the Pac and the Mountain West combining turn into a Power 5 conference? Sure, maybe. I don't know, though. I think, the Stanford issue is a big issue.
It's a huge issue.
What, is Stanford going to go independent? I don't think that's what's best for them. But if you're not willing or you don't want to go to the Mountain West, I don't really see another option for you at this time. So that's why I say I think this Mountain West thing is a good Band-Aid for now. And then you've got a couple of years here to figure out what you're going to do over the course of the next decade.
You have 3 full seasons left.
Yeah.
To decide where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. And I simply maintain you could do 3 years in the Mountain West and it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
But if you're going to take the next several years, and remember, the Mountain West TV deal is $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
The AAC TV deal is $7 million per year right now. So let's pretend those numbers stay the same. You have 20 sports at your institution. So are you going to, if you're Cal or Washington State, terrible financial situation.
Right.
Like strapped for cash. You're irrelevant in football and basketball at both Cal and Stanford. You have 18 other fully financial dependent sports. Are you going to drive a bus to New Orleans from Berkeley if you don't have to?
No.
Because $3 million more to go to the AAC for 20 sports, the softball and baseball travel alone is estimated to be as much as $750,000 at a major university between co-oping and hotels and flights. And if you go to the AAC and you wind up on the East Coast, you understand some of those flights that are not charters, because you can't afford to fly chartered, those are 24-hour road trips from one place to another. Like, think through that. It makes very little sense for the Pac-4 to merge with the AAC.
Yeah.
Because I can get from Berkeley to Boise on a bus trip. I can get from Corvallis to Berkeley on a plane or a bus. Like, it's easy travel.
Yeah.
I can go to New Mexico. I can go to San Diego. I can go to Fresno.
Well, it's that old term that all the old heads in the Pac-12 like to use, right? Regionality.
Yeah.
Right?
It matters.
The Pac-12, and Michael Crow talked about this, a little bit in that interview that we played some snippets from. He liked the Apple deal because it allowed the Pac-12 to stay together and continue to be a regional conference.
Yeah,
That's
totally agree.
what they care about.
All right, Domer Wop says, love you guys, but I'm sorry, Paisan. Someone really needs to get Jake a booster seat. Are we really still on Jake the booster seat? You paid us $5 to say
Thank you for
Jake.
paying. Thank you.
Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes very little sense to me. Football at 50, 10 of the hour, every hour on the Monty Show is presented by our good friends at Papa Murphy's Pizza. Papa Murphy's Pizza, the official pizza of the Monty Show. Download the Papa Murphy's mobile app. Use the promo code Monty25 to save 25% off your purchase of $25 or more. A little breaking news out of the NFL to lead us off. Adam Schefter, ESPN, says Colts running back Jonathan Taylor has once again left Colts camp. You remember last week he left Colts camp to rehab an injury away from the team. Now this week he has personal business and has left the Indianapolis Colts camp. I am just going to say again, Jim Irsay, you're screwing this up. He is all pro. He is a franchise level running back. The fans love him. He's great in your community. He will kiss babies. He will carry old women across the street. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, not the right thing.
There is, by the way, it's a contract dispute. Jonathan Taylor wants to get paid, and the Colts don't want to pay him. Why are you not paying him?
Yeah, and I think the way the league is treating backs right now is unfortunate. And I think, it surprises me when guys like Saquon or Jonathan Taylor, like some of the best backs in the league,
yes,
can't get paid for whatever reason. And it's like this whole Zach Martin concept in Dallas. Now, obviously he gets paid. Okay, great, they took care of that. But just the idea that Zach Martin had to hold out to get paid what he is well worth by
and then
everyone's.
he didn't even become. He's easily the best guard in the NFL. Third highest paid guard in the NFL. So he still took a write down from what a guy like Joe Bitonio in Cleveland's getting 20.
Yeah.
I'm amazed by it.
So then I look at Jonathan Taylor and I'm like, dude, why are we playing around with this? Like, is this feels like to me, it feels like to me the nice way to say I'm holding out. Personal business. Okay, dude.
That's what you have to do. This is the argument with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley talked all tough and said, I'll sit out the season. I don't care. I have to do what's best for running backs. And then he folded and took a discounted deal and did not get a clause to be a free agent after the season. They can use the tag on him next year. And who's paying the price for that right now? That'd be Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis, who's paying the price for that right now. And I would have done what Jonathan Taylor's doing. I am not going to pay you a refund every day that I miss camp because you're being a diamond cutting cheap ass. I'm not doing that. I'm going to report and ow, my ankle hurts. I need to go see a specialist in my hometown. Oh, hey, I have some personal business. I need to fly home for the week. That's what I'd be doing because Jonathan Taylor doesn't have to pay them any money back for going home on a personal matter. He doesn't have to pay them money back. Every NFL player has the right to seek independent medical treatment. He doesn't have to pay him money back. But if you hold out, you got to pay him money back. I think that's exactly what I would be doing.
Cat and mouse game, dude.
It is.
Cat and mouse game.
That's exactly right. Did you guys see the JETS Jets and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today absolutely having a melee in joint practices where one of the Jets coaches caught a haymaker and went to the hospital after this was over? And by the way, not for nothing, during this whole practice, the Jets' offensive line was terrible. Look at this video of Aaron Rodgers having to dump this ball off for his life. They pressured the Jets all practice long.
Yes.
To the point where Aaron's not able to hang in there.
Well, and look at what you're seeing with their offense, right? So if the offensive line doesn't make Zach or Aaron dump balls off early, what's happening? Like this one, where Aaron's having to push up through the pocket and find a crossing route that's probably not there in a real game. I get it. The Jets are a hot commodity right now, and I love the Dalvin Cook signing. But this is we've been talking about this since before the Aaron Rodgers trade. Aaron Rodgers is a guy you have to protect. He's not one of these new age quarterbacks that's going to be constantly, running around and, making up for a bad offensive line. And that's why I say, Patrick Mahomes gets paid at the rate he does because he can make up for a bad offensive line. He can save you probably 5-6 sacks a game just by his ability to run around and find the open guy 6, 7, 8 seconds into the play. So that's why I say, dude, the Jets are cool and everything, but if they can't protect him, you're going to have issues.
Yeah, I think, by the way, Aaron Rodgers stopped practicing today after he felt pain in his calf. So he's still dealing with this calf injury. How do you not have a good offensive line? Again, I'm a talk show host. I am not an NFL general manager.
Yeah.
You just went and traded for the most expensive quarterback in the history of the NFL, and you don't have an offensive line. Watching Hard Knocks last night on HBO, Robert Saleh, the coach of the Jets, railing the offensive line.
Man, I like the examples you used, right?
Man.
You can have great wide receivers, you can have a Hall of Famer, a quarterback, you can have all this great stuff, but if you can't protect your quarterback and you can't give him time, it doesn't matter how fast that, what the 4.3 speed does outside if he doesn't have time to throw it.
Yeah, totally agree. And, dude, this blindside story.
Bro, it just keeps getting worse by the day.
Michael Oher. You know Michael Oher. You know this story. Michael Oher was a homeless kid. This family took him in. The Tui family took him in. Michael Oher is now suing the Tui family, saying that they tricked him into signing papers to give them conservatorship over Michael Oher, which means they control his money. He alleges that he never got any of the blindside money. And now, all of the details of this are coming out. And my only question is, I think Michael Oher is 37 years old. You really had no idea that all of your money was being watched over by the Tui family? You're 37 years old, man. How is that possible?
Yeah.
How is it possible that Michael Oher didn't know he was adopted? He had to have, they're telling him, hey, we're adopting you. And how did he not? Something's not right here.
Right.
Something is not right. It feels off to me. I could completely see a scenario where maybe somebody made a bunch of money off of a professional athlete, took that money and walked away from him. But I can't see a scenario where Michael Oher had no idea that he was not adopted and was under conservatorship. That does not.
It's hard to believe. I mean, it really is hard to believe, and it makes one wonder, what is he really suing over? What is the? Because it can't just be that. It can't just be that. There has to be something that is not public knowledge yet. That because they're clearly playing the PR marketing game. Bashing each other in the media. We've seen this movie before over the years, and so I look at this and I say it's always a case of 3 months from now a court session's going to be held and all this stuff's going to come out
and they're going to settle out of court.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll never know. Who the hell knows? But I don't know. I would be surprised. And by the way, real quick, for all the people saying that Sandra Bullock should have her Oscar removed or whatever.
Sandra Bullock starred in The Blind Side.
Come on, dude.
And played the character of his, I don't know, can I say his adopted mother? Sure. Michael Oher's adopted mother was played by Sandra Bullock in the movie. And now these idiots on social media are like, she's got to give the Oscar back. Why? Why does she have to give the Oscar back? Why?
She was doing a job, dude.
Yeah, and Jim Rowe made a great point today. Is Cillian Murphy being accused of dropping nukes on... No, he's not. That's because he played Oppenheimer doesn't mean the guy dropped nukes on anybody. He's an actor. Sandra Bullock's an actress.
Yeah.
And she played a role, and she did a really good job, and she won an Oscar. Let's not get carried away. And look, Sandra Bullock's got... No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. Like, where's the thought process that says, well, you know, the Tuohys did this. Sandra Bullock's got to give her Oscar back. No, she doesn't. No, she does not. It's one of the most ridiculous things I have ever heard, and I think it's second only to people who have never had a Papa Murphy's calzone.
At Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do calzones.
Papa Murphy's does calzones?
Oh, I think you mean I do the calzones.
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it? How do I do it?
Well, we do it with fresh ingredients and hand-shredded cheese tucked in a scratch-made dough.
That's how, honey.
At Papa Murphy's, we make great pizza.
Hey, don't forget the calzones.
Order now at papamurphys.com.